In this forecast video, we're taking a look at the tropics as we have Hurricane Fiona strengthening as a Category 4 hurricane, as well as newly formed Invest 98L that we need to watch as the Gulf Coast states are a direct threat to this new storm in the Caribbean. We have a lot to talk about, so let's get right into it. So before I get right into things, as you can see, you're probably wondering where I am. I am at Lake Ouachita, Arkansas on a little vacation this week, but I decided to do a video since we have a lot to talk about, so let's get right into things. So as you can see, we have Hurricane Fiona right now, as well as this red circle right here. Usually when you see a red circle, that perks a lot of people's attention, and it should be perking a lot of people's attention because as you can see here, we do have this red area of interest that has a 90% chance of cyclone formation in the next 5 days. So we really need to watch this as this is expected to go into the Caribbean. Besides that, we do still have Hurricane Fiona expected to affect Bermuda, as well as much more activity off the coast of Africa. We're not going to get into that in this video, but maybe in future updates we'll get into that as these storms start to really develop and come towards the Caribbean. We do have this orange area of interest right here. We aren't really looking at this much as this is expected to go northward. And also Tropical Storm Gaston up here. This isn't expected to affect us. So let's look at Hurricane Fiona right now. As you can see, we do have a major hurricane right now, a Category 4 hurricane. That is what Fiona is. By the time we get into Friday, into this weekend, we are expecting this to be right on Bermuda's doorstep here. You can see major hurricane just to the west of Bermuda. So if you're in Bermuda, we still expect you to have some hurricane impacts, very strong winds. So you need to be ready for that, as well as flooding, as we saw in Puerto Rico. We saw major flooding in Puerto Rico. It was not a good situation there. But as you can see, this is just to the west of Bermuda. We're really going to be watching you there in Bermuda, as you guys do have a hurricane warning. Expect very strong winds by the time we get into tomorrow, early morning tomorrow. That is when we're expecting for Hurricane Fiona to be almost right over Bermuda, just to the west of Bermuda. But by the time we go into this weekend, we see this affecting Nova Scotia and Newfoundland in Canada. Now, this will significantly weaken by the time it gets into those very cold waters near Newfoundland. But by the time it gets to Nova Scotia, we do expect this still to be a hurricane as we go into this weekend. And then as it goes up towards Greenland, of course, it will weaken because it just can't sustain that hurricane tropical storm force winds and all that, because the waters will just be too cold. But you guys need to be ready for this hurricane. It won't be as strong by the time it gets to Nova Scotia, but still it will be a hurricane, especially on the eastern tip is where we're expecting our main impacts. Hurricane force winds there, and then by the time it gets to Newfoundland, we do expect it to weaken, but still need to be ready for some flooding, some strong winds, and of course those strong winds, as we are expecting this to go through Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, becoming a tropical storm by the time it goes into Newfoundland. But pretty interesting here, as it is expected to hit Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. We do not see that a lot. So let's get on over to tropical storm, not tropical storm yet, but Invest 98L. This is expected to become a tropical storm and a big tropical system. A lot of the weather people out there are watching this. A lot of people are hyping this up, but we shouldn't be hyping this up, but we really should be taking a big look at it, as it is looking very concerning. So right now we're looking at the spaghetti models. This is basically a bunch of the weather models telling us where this is heading. Of course, we can't really trust this map too much, but things will change. But it has been trending that this Invest 98L for right now, it is expected to become a tropical depression as we go into the upcoming days. And then we're going to have to be watching Jamaica, Cuba, and the Yucatan Peninsula as this goes into the Caribbean. This is expected to rapidly strengthen as it goes into the central Caribbean and possibly become a hurricane as it gets to around Cuba and the Yucatan Peninsula. We're going to be having to watch you guys over there in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. For right now, it's been trending that it will go towards Florida. Of course, we can't listen to that. It could hit Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida. We can't rule out Texas, but for right now, I'm mainly leaning towards Florida or Louisiana, of course, Alabama, Mississippi, as we do expect this storm to rapidly strengthen, and we need to watch this, of course, in future updates. We will talk about this more. We'll get more info as we see low pressure systems come off into the northeast. That's going to give us some more info of what we're expecting here. But again, we got to watch Jamaica here. It is expected to go just south of you. Only one model is taking it to go over Jamaica, but it is expected to go into the Gulf of Mexico, and that's what really worries me, as this could be our first really hurricane that affects the Gulf states. So this is really significant, and we are going to have to watch this, and I will watch this for you guys throughout the time I am posting updates here. We're looking at a lot in the tropics right now, and I'll be there to cover you guys on this. So that about wraps up this hurricane tropics update here. As you can see, we do have a lot that we just talked about. Hurricane Fiona, again, is expected to just brush by Bermuda. You guys need to be ready for that, as well as over there in Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, there in northeastern Canada. Expected to be a hurricane when it hits you guys there. And again, we do have Invest 98L. We're going to have to really watch this. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.